Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of Stuart Close Philosophy, and we are on the concluding part of the big chapter, that is the potentiation and infinitesimal dose. In order to explain to the world that homeopathy is not a placebo therapy, whatever is there in the homeopathy is nothing but the medicine, and that medicine is, even though it is very finite or very fine, still it has the properties of the original drug substance. At the same time, it carries the energy. And what is the science behind it? In order to explain this concept, Stuart Close has written this specific chapter. We have learned many aspects of it, and he has given all scientific proofs in order to explain this thing. Uh, Last thing which he was explaining is again important thing, that uh, if we consume the food in the vegetable form, when it enters from the universe to the vegetable, it gets potentized. The energy is catched over there, and this energy itself is in a palatable form. So the form gets changed. The phosphates, the sulfates, the nitrates from the soil gets absorbed into the vegetable, and they becomes potentized. And when human consumes that, then again they gets potentized, and that's why the energy can be released from it, and whatever the nutrients they are useful for human body gets absorbed, assimilated over there. This process itself is the logical thought which Hahnemann have utilized in the process of potentization, and this he tries to explain over there. This infinitesimal dose prepared by Hahnemann, it has a typical significant properties of each and individual medicine. Here, few important rules, or here few important doctrines and laws of the basic sciences comes into the play. The first is Newton's third law of motion, that is, or also called as law of reciprocal action. Action and reactions are equal and opposite. Second important law which he has explained, that the law of biological development, the functions creates the organ. The third law which he has utilized from physics is matter is indestructible and infinitely divisible. Yeah, so potentization, it comes under the same sphere on the basis of which we prepare the potencies. And he has taken help of the chemistry, the ionization theory, the molecules and atoms and their structure and electrons, and how electrons moves, which are invisible to human eyes, but those are in positive charge. All those aspects which we have learned over there, and which gives a specific entity. Even though we make CM potency, it carries homeopathic medicine in it, original medicine, the properties of it. At the same time, the energy of it is also there with it. So these are the things which we have discussed in earlier lecture. We were on page number 233, the last paragraph. Will start, and today most probably will finish this chapter. Those parts of the organism which do not satisfy their wants and requirements by this intra-organic nutrition alone assimilate from the outer world whatever is necessary, not only for their own existence but also for their cooperation with others and for the self-preservation of the organism. Thus, the blood assimilates oxygen from the air, the eye, the light, the ear, the sound, the nose, the olfactory matter, the tongue, the gustatory matter, the brain and nerves, phosphorus, etc. The mind, thought, or the operations of other minds by means of senses, and so on. The organism continually assimilating from the planet and universe as long as it lasts. Consequently, the whole organism is the product of assimilation of matter, and its action is the result of potentiation of matter. And so is disease, and so is health, and so is all the life. So he is explaining what is happening around us and within us. We used to catch the food in certain specific material quantity, but that material quantity is necessary in order to create an energy. So that is utilized in the process of metabolism, and our body starts functioning, because of which every organ functions. The eyes catches the light, and that's why we have the vision. The ear, because of ear, it catches the sound, and because of which we listen. Every special senses have their own specific functions, and because of which it is possible. All things are dynamics. You cannot show this is light. Yes, you can see the expression of light, but you cannot show this is light. The same is true. You cannot show the sound. You can listen the sound. You can say that there is sound, but you cannot explain this is what is sound. All dynamic entities creates are useful in human body and works over there in the life. They remains in the state of health, they alters in the state of disease, and again goes to the same state of health when cure happens. And all those dynamics plays very vital role in the human being. Even though they are dynamic, we say yes, they are present because of the cause and effects. As there is some sound which is produced outside, the sound wave starts over from there, your ears catches it, it enters in your eardrum, then it gets immediately reflected into the brain and you listen sound. Everything is immaterial, only where it originates is material and where it ends is material. In between medium is the dynamic, is an ether, and through that it passes. This, on the basis of this cause and effects, we consider is there is sound wave. In the similar manner, in a homeopathic medicine, you have to consider it contains the matter only on the basis of cause and effects. Once you give medicine, it shows signs and symptomatology very specifically. It indicates it carries the potency or it carries the energy of that specific original medicine. And that's what he says on next page. The hypothetical ether is possibly infinitesimal comminuted matter forming as it were the reservoir of high potency required for universal assimilation of homeostasis, which is continually going on and mediating all life in the world. These words were written prior to the 1865, more than 50 years ago. Does it not increase our respect and reverence for our Dr. Finke as a philosopher to find Sir Oliver Lodge, the foremost philosopher and scientist of Great Britain, substantially endorsing his views in his work, The Ether of Space, published in 1909? So, we carry all those things from the universe. We get energy from this universe, from the ether. This ether, which is a space around us, looks empty, but it is not empty, it is substantial, through which a number of waves were passing. If you are able to catch, you catch it. If you are not able to catch, those goes unnoticed around you. And you say there is nothing. But it carries a number of things over there which are called to be substantial. Unless and until substance is there, they cannot be recorded, they cannot be shown, they cannot be visualized. And that's why there are many entities which are called to be a substantial. Without the help of substance, they cannot get expressed. Same is true regarding the homeopathic medicine also. So why he is explaining all these things? He is explaining all those things to show the homeopathic medicine, the potency carries the properties in the similar manner. Then he takes the help of Lodge and again says what Lodge says. Lodge was a philosopher from Great Britain. Lodge says the question is often asked, is ether material? This is largely a question of words and convenience. Undoubtedly, ether belongs to the material or physical universe, but it is not ordinary matter. I should prefer to say it is not matter at all. It may be a substance or substratum of material of which matter is composed. But it would be confusing and inconvenient not to be able to discriminate between matter on one hand and ether on other. If you tie a knot on a bit of string and knot is composed of string, but string is not composed of knots. If you have a smoke or vortex ring in the air, the vortex ring is made up of air, but atmosphere is not a vortex ring. So he is giving the example. He has given in a very simple language. Vortex rings means वावटळ. उन्हाळ्यात जे वाऱ्यांचं वादळ सुटतं त्याला वावटळ म्हणतात. इथरमध्ये असं घर 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 फिरत इट गोज इन अ सर्क्युलर मॅनर, इट गोज अप ऑल ऑफ अ सडन, अँड देन यू सी अरे देर आर एन नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स इन ether. But actually, is it ether? No, it is not ether. It is composed of some matter, but which is invisible unless and until there is a vortex. In the similar manner, whenever you see the homeopathic medicine, you cannot detect the medicine, but when you give it, you observe the effects. And then you say, yes, it contains the matter. So whole thing is revolving in order to explain, yes, it carries a matter even though it is invisible. The essential distinction between matter and ether is that matter moves, in the sense that it has property of locomotion and can effect impact and bombardment, while ether is strained and has property of exerting stress and recoil. All potential energy exists in the ether. It may vibrate and it may rotate, but as regards locomotion, it is stationary. The most stationary body we know, absolutely stationary, so to speak, our standard of rest. All that we observe, all that we ourselves can effect in the material universe is to alter the motion and configuration of masses of matter. So he is explaining that whether ether, whether it itself is moving, it is in motion. We look, it is fixed. It is not it is not having a movement. But the contents in the ether, they are moving, but which are not observable to your eyes. We feel the space is there, but in the space there are a number of things which moves from one side to another side, but which are invisible to your eye. And that's why we say that whether it is substance, material, or whether it is a substantial, that is the invisible. Both things are there. One is invisible entity, at the same time one is visible entity and or matter, with the help of which ether is present. But now comes the question, how is it possible for matter to be composed of ether? How is it possible for solid to be made out of fluid? A solid possesses property of rigidity, impenetrability, elasticity, and such like. How can these be imitated by a perfect fluid such as ether must be? The answer is they can be imitated by a fluid in motion, a statement which we make with confidence as a result of great part of Lord Kelvin's work. It may be illustrated by few experiments. A wheel of spokes, transparent or permeable when stationary, becomes opaque when revolving, so that a ball thrown against it does not go through but rebounds. The motion only affects the permeability to the matter. Transfer, transparency to the light is unaffected. A flexible chain set spinning can stand up on end while the motion continues. A jet of water is sufficient at a sufficient speed can be struck with the hammer and resist being cut with a sword. If ether can be set spinning, therefore, we have some hope of making it imitate the properties of matter or even of constructing matter by its aid. But how are we to spin the ether? Matter alone seems to have no grip on it, but you can vibrate it electrically, and every source of radiation does that. An electrical charge in sufficiently rapid vibration is the only source of ether waves that we know. And if an electric charge is suddenly stopped, it generates the pulses known as X-rays as a result of collision. Not speed, but sudden change of speed is necessary condition for generating waves in the ether by electricity. So he is explaining the concept of ether in relation with the science. If we want to show the movement in the ether, it cannot be. Or if you think that we can move the things, it is not possible. We cannot make the spin of ether directly, but if we revolve something very fast and then you catch, yes, there are matters in the ether which start spinning. This happens. But then force is applied, then only it is possible. An electric force is applied, then it is possible. In the similar manner, when force is applied to the homeopathic medicines, the potential energy in the homeopathic medicines gets converted, gets a motion, gets a movement, gets a kinetic energy, and then it starts working. So, in ordinary crude form, it carries potential energy, never works in human being. If you consume iron piece directly, it will not increase your blood. It never gets assimilated in your body. But if same iron piece, when prepared according to the homeopathic pharmacopoeia and makes it available in the molecular form, then it increases your blood, then it increases your hemoglobin. Even in allopathic medicine, they gives it in as a elemental iron. That means it is very fine molecular iron that it works and produces definitely a action of it. So this is what he is trying to explain over there. With the help of external force, it is possible to generate an energy in the immaterial thing and which will be useful for good purposes. So this what is the purpose of this chapter is to tell you exactly this infinitesimal dose carries a potential energy converted into the kinetic energy and it works for human being. The universe we are living in is an extraordinary one, and our investigations of it has only just begun. We know that matter has psychical significance since it can constitute brain, which links together the physical and psychical worlds. If anyone thinks that the ether, with all its massiveness and energy, has probably no psychical significance, I find myself unable to agree with him. The earlier conception of ether regarded it as simply a medium for conveying radiation. Faraday's experiments and investigations led him to believe that it had other, perhaps more important uses and properties. He conjectured that the same medium which is concerned in the propagation of light might also be the agent in electromagnetic phenomena, and this conjecture was amply strengthened by subsequent investigation. Lodge now says one more function is now being discovered. The ether is being found to constitute matter. Professor J. J. Thomson, Sir J. J. Thomson says the whole mass of the body is just as mass of ether surrounding the body, which is carried along the Faraday's tubes associated with atoms of the body. In fact, all mass is mass of ether, all momentum of ether, and all kinetic energy of the ether. This view, it should be said, requires the density of ether to be immensely greater than that of any known substance. See, he is trying to explain the importance of ether and in relation with you, in relation with the human being. There is, we see, I am present over here, and along with me, you cannot see something around me. If you pass specific rays, then you will find there is a typical around me, something present which has its own aura, which has its own significance, and which gets affected because of effects of surroundings. So, whenever we go to any place, all of a sudden we give reaction. Right? So beautiful thing. You go into that environment, nothing has happened. You have just entered and you show it. See the psychical effect of the environment, the ether on you. And you go some other place and because of something you observe and you become immediately you show a dirty reaction to it. A psychical reaction given to the ether. The thing is looks material, but it also has its own significance and which affects or it acts on you and reactions are produced. And that's why don't consider ether is only an empty or vacuum. It contains something which has a psychical as well as physical aspect over there. Thus, we see that the difference between Dr. Finke's conception of constitution of the ether and that of Faraday and the later scientists is mainly verbal. There is no appreciable difference between the ether as matter in state of infinitesimal fineness of the division and ether as substance of which matter is composed. Comprehension of either idea depends upon the ability to understand meaning of the word infinitesimal as used in mathematical sense. Infinitely small denotes a quantity conceived in continually diminishing so as to become less than any other quantity having an assigned value. There is no limit assigned nor conceivable. It is finite thought carried to the utmost limit and then some. So to conclude chapter, he is on concluding part and then he is going to the again homeopathy and explaining that yes, when you go on uh, making medicine fine, you reach to certain level where you cannot find where is the matter. But still, when you make it fine, you go on producing or increasing the energy and by applying the forces with the during the succussion or protein trituration, and it goes on into the infinity, but still it persists. It carries its own properties and it works. So if you give a dose of Ignatium to someone in 2 3 days doses and you see it works, it produces its own features in a healthy body. And this is very important. Here it indicates that even though so fine it is, not able to catch with any instrument, still it acts, still it works. And this is what is called as infinitesimal dose. And to conclude last chapter, what he says, the philosopher, the psychist and the chemist, physicist and chemist, each in his own way, analyzes, divides, and subdivides matter until he can go no further and then finds himself confronted by the mystery, incapable of solution by physical means. Shall he stop there and whoosh the question that will arise in his mind when he has penetrated thus far? Something within him rebels at the arbitrary limitation of thought, aspiration, intuition, reason, analogy, the logical faculty, all urge him forward. Up to this point, his investigation has revealed what can only be regarded logically as secondary causes. The primary cause eludes him. The physician and pathologist also has his mystery. The microbe, the bacillus, the bacterium, all form of microorganisms and all other proximate causes of disease carried back even to the formless bit of protoplasm or living matter must themselves be accounted for. That which lies beyond cannot be seen by the microscope. At this point, it is necessary to substitute the telescope of intuitional reasoning for the microscope of physical demonstration. He was a poet. Close was a poet, and that's why he writes everything in a poetic word. To conclude chapter, he has used again the philosophy, and he says that there are a number of things which you cannot visualize. Microbes, only few microbes we know. There are a number of microbes which never comes under the microscope and gets visualized. Not at all. But they are present. They are there. We go on finding it out under the microscope, many causes of diseases called to be a prima causa morbi. Sometimes we succeed. Patient gets fever and you ask the many tests and all tests are negative and still the fever is persistent. And then it is a limitation of science to locate that material. And if it is not there, you say what you label? You label it is PUO, pyrexia of unknown origin. Because you are not able to catch what that causative organism is there, which is causing that trouble. Why you are not able to catch? Because it is not possible, because it is infinite. It is not. In the similar manner, homeopathic medicine is also infinite. And that's why this infinitesimal dose works in the human being, even though it is not visible through the naked eye. So whole story of this chapter is nothing but it the infinitesimal dose prepared by the method of potentiation carries the properties and energy, has the capacity to alter the human state of health and produce signs and symptoms. At the same time, in the diseased individual, when applied on the law of similars, definitely works and brings back again the cure. And that scientificity he has tried his level best to explain with the help of with the help of examples of many scientists and laws and doctrines of basic sciences. So here completes one more chapter from Stuart Close for third year syllabus. One chapter is still remaining that will start tomorrow. That is chapter number 15, the drug potential. A short chapter is there where you can learn what exactly how the drug works and what is the potential in drug. So that tomorrow we'll start with it. Today evening again we'll meet with one more remedy, that is the Bacillinum anosode from the Borix Matremedica at 8:15. So thank you being there.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.